We are going to be in the book of 1 Kings. So 1 Kings chapter 19. If you need to open your Bible on your app or on your phone, tablet, your paper Bible, whatever, that's where we're going to be. And for those of y'all, this is not going to come as a shock. You guys know that I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, Maisie and Betsy, and they are incredible and fun and terrible all at once. And right now I'm in this really cool season of life as a dad because they don't know that I'm dumb. Like, they don't know that I am not fun to hang out with yet because they're 3 and they're 1. And so dad is like a superhero. So I come home from work and I walk in and I always know if it's been a long day or a great day at home, because if it's been a long day, Maisie comes out of the garage and I park out front, she comes out, she's like, Dad, which means my wife Emma was like, just go say hi to Dad, get out of it. Like, she's just been a little much. Maisie J is a little bit much at times. But usually, this is like the rhythm of my day. I get home, and it is the best. I get home, and I give Emma a kiss, and Maisie a kiss, and Betsy a kiss, and say hi. And then I go upstairs, and I change into sweatpants or like basketball shorts or something, and come down. And from 5:30 to 7:30, with the exception of dinner, the majority of my time gets spent on the living room floor. And I don't mean like hiding from my children, like, please just stay in the kitchen. Like, we're wrestling. Like, Betsy, my 1-year-old, it's adorable. She thinks that wrestling means blah, 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 and just does that. And it's awesome. She thinks tickling, she'll walk up behind it and she'll go, and do that to your back. And she's saying tickle, 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 because we'll be like, tickle, 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 and that's her version of it. And it's adorable. And Maisie right now, she likes doing, she calls him, Dad, a spooky Christmas dance party, which means we leave the Christmas lights on the tree and we turn all of the lights off in the house and we jam out to Sound of Music. I hate the Sound of Music. Emma and I had this conversation last night. I just don't enjoy it, but I love my daughter more than I can't stand Maria. And so, well, I'm not saying like they should have lost at the end of the movie. I just don't enjoy the movie. And so we'll go do that. And we'll dance for an hour and just burn energy and all kinds of stuff. And there was one night when I got home that Maisie was we'll just say like extra rambunctious that night. And she walks in, we're in the living room and I'm standing there and she grabs my hand and she goes, Dad, watch. And so she does it. I don't know what happened, but she starts running up my legs and then manages, I do not understand, manages to flip over and I'm like obviously helping her. And she does a backflip and she's like, oh, Dad, we have to do that again. And it's like, yeah, we do. That was awesome. And so we do that over and over where she's just like backflipping or I'll flop her onto the sofa doing that. And it is all great fun until my daughter, who is full of energy, decides, and some of you guys, you heard this story, start. And you're like, I don't know where this is going. She's running on my legs and misses a step. A little bit inside. And it is the step where my 35-pound daughter, I don't know, decides to launch her body into the stratosphere. I love my daughter, even when I don't like her at times. There's an elder at our church who is a doctor, and he told me when Maisie was born, it is very hard to break a child. It's like, that's weird advice. These are the moments why he told me that, because what happened was when she landed her launching foot in you know where, Dad goes from being like this superhero to going, ah! Now, the unfortunate part is she did manage to launch her feet into the air. And so I am not holding her, and she is now upside down. And that's where the momentum stops carrying her over and begins to carry her directly into the ground. Now, for whatever reason, my descent on going is the same time she's descending head first into the ground. And it was probably a 1/10 of a second. But we locked eyes, and what I could only imagine is I thought you loved me, Dad, look, from my 3-year-old, because then she decided, wonder where I'm going. The carpet, fast. So in that, Maisie just onto the ground, face first. Her nose broke her fall. It was not good. So she is going, She's like hyperventilating. I'm trying not to throw up, and I'm trying to get like breathing function back, and I'm feeling bad for my daughter, but bad for myself as well. Emma is in the kitchen cooking, and she comes in, she's like, what just happened? And I'm still in the fetal position, so she goes, she picks up Maisie, and she's sitting on our couch like, what's wrong? She goes, Dad dropped me. And I was like, yeah. And Betsy comes in, unaware of anything, hears noise, and just goes like, Mama. And Maisie thinks she's making fun of her for being hurt, and it's this whole thing. Maisie still has a nose, we're all good, like everything is fine. But in that moment, in this moment right here, when she starts to go down, the look in her eyes that said, Dad, I thought you loved me, what she needed in that moment was me to save her. Unfortunately, she's the reason that couldn't happen. But she needed me to reach out and change the position, the direction that she was going. She was in a spot where really, honestly, moving from this direction to this direction is not really going to save her at all. She needed an outside force with extreme momentum to come in and intervene before she got hurt. Did not happen. That's what she needed. And I can't help but wonder, as we're looking through this series, You in 5 Years, for those of you that maybe have missed it, the reason that we've got these paper airplanes is the argument that we're trying to give you guys is for your life, you're heading in this direction, and we believe that if you make some small changes now that take your life from going this direction to this direction, it's not a lot. But this, over the course of 5 years, puts you in a very different position. But here's what we know to be true. Some of you, that's what you need. You just need that little like, pop to the side. But there's a lot of us in here who, like my daughter, you realize you're like about to head plant into the ground. And for Maisie, really like a little boop in trajectory is not gonna save anything. She's still gonna end in destruction. If you're taking your life in this direction, a little change is great unless you need to be going that way. If you need to be going that way, you need something to go boom, and change the entire trajectory of your life. And so how do we do that? Well, we talked the very beginning of this series, we said digging ditches, doing the hard things that don't make sense and leave you vulnerable over and over and over, trusting that God's gonna move. Oh, we talked about speaking truth over your life and taking every thought captive. We talked about the relationships that you have, the habits that you have. But what do we do if we're in a spot where our life is going this way and a change in our language just makes it go this way and we need to go that way? How do we experience a drastic change in momentum? And that's what we see in this passage in 1st and 2nd Kings. We see the story of these guys, and just so that I don't get them mixed up, we're going to see the story of these two prophets. One's name is Elijah. Everybody say Elijah. The other one, you know where this is going, many of you. The other one's name is Elisha. Everybody say Elisha. Now, just in case I get them confused, here's what you need to know. Elijah is the older one. And he is, I'm talking like Mount Rushmore level, all-star prophet. He is one of the big ones. He does incredible things throughout his life. He is a celebrity of his day. He sets up schools of ministry all over the place. He's got students that are following his footsteps. He is speaking truth into kings. And the role of a prophet is basically the mouthpiece of God. Sometimes they predict the future through that. That's what we usually associate it with. But a lot of times it's speaking truth from God into a situation or doing miracles that testify of God's authority in a situation. He's doing all of these miraculous, incredible things. That's Elijah. He is like the top of the line of that. And then Elisha is a younger guy who eventually, as we're going to see, kind of moves into that. But his original trajectory of his life, Elisha needed to be going this way. And God was calling him to this way. But his life was going this direction. And just so you know, this isn't always a direction of sin. This isn't always the direction of bad things. What we're going to see in Elisha's life, he was doing everything that made sense. He was doing just fine. He was doing good things in the direction that was a logical choice, but it wasn't where he was supposed to be. And so in 1 Kings 19, starting the first part of verse 19, we see, so Elijah went and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat. So for those of you who are like, I wonder who Elisha is. He's Shaphat's son. Plowing a field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing with the 12th team. Now, here's what we see in this. This is pretty important because it sets up an idea of who Elisha is. He's Shaphat's son, and he's farming, and they've got 12 teams. This idea of 12 teams of oxen, that would be like a farm that's got 12 combines that are required to harvest the entire crop. This is not Elisha and Shaphat go out to mom's herb garden and picks the oregano every once in a while. This is like a huge empire. Shaphat Farms, Inc. is probably very wealthy because 12 teams of oxen, that's just what's working in the field that day. That's 24 oxen. There's a lot going on. There is a team of people employed by this empire. This is a big deal. What we see is Elisha's out in the field. Odds are he is out in the field learning the family business. It's pretty reasonable to expect he may be the oldest in his family, which would mean he is in line to inherit Shaphat Farms, Inc. He is the heir apparent of that. His entire life has likely centered around this idea of taking over the family business, having power and wealth and influence. It is the logical choice. Anyone from the outside would look at Elisha's life and say, obviously, that's the direction that he needs to go. Every single thing. It's not sin, it's not disobedience, it's just the way it's going. And then the second part of this verse gets stranger danger weird. So the rest of verse 19 says, Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and walked away. You read that and you're like, of course he did. It's like, no, that is weird. Like, that is a strange thing. If any of y'all are at a football game or out to eat and some dude that's 25 years, 30 years older than you walks up, says, here's a jacket. Run. Like, get out. Like, Maisie him right where you have, like, and just get out of the situation. That is not good. And I imagine Elisha, he's working in the farm. He's minding his own business, and then all of a sudden this old dude comes over and, here you go, boy, and walks off. That's a lot to process. But here's why that's important. It's not Elijah being like creepy old man. I mean, it kind of is, but there's more to it. It's a passing of the baton. It is Elijah going and saying, my mantle, my responsibility is now on you. This is a little bit cheesy of an analogy, but it fits. In FSM, we have this, I'm telling you, this is dumb, but also really important. We have an actual baton, and on the baton is written the names of the guys who have led FSM. And so it goes back to Brandon Bernard, who's now one of our teaching pastors, and it's got the dates that he was in this role, and then it's got Tim Caldwell and the dates he was in his role. It's got Adam Sauer and the dates he was in his role. And about 9-10 months ago, when we started having conversations about me moving into this role, after everything was settled, I walked into my office that next day, and on my desk was the baton and a Sharpie, and Adam had filled in his end date. And it was his way, and some of y'all that know Adam, that's more emotion than the man has ever expressed in 10 years. I'm telling you, it's cheesy, but it meant a lot. And so I had this baton and this Sharpie, and I looked at how great the penmanship of the guys before me was, and I was like, don't screw this up, don't screw this up. And I put 2018 in a dash and said a little prayer of like, Lord, please don't make me have to put 2018 on the other side of the dash too, Lord, like we can do this. And I had a moment. And there's a baton, and the day will come. Not today. This is not like a weird turn where I tell you, like, see you later. That's not what's happening. But the day will come when God calls another person to lead this ministry, and on that day, when all the dust settles, I will hand that guy this red baton with names and dates as a way of signifying, this is yours to carry now. That's what we see with Elijah and Elisha. It's not this thing where Elisha thinks he's cold, or is cold, and this creepy man is nice. This is Elijah saying, I carry the mantle of the Lord Most High. I am his key prophet in this season, and you are next. It's a passing of the baton. And so then what do we see? I think after a second it clicks, and then we see in verse 20, it opens up and it says, Elisha left the oxen standing there, which is not what you do. You don't leave the keys in the combine and just go sprinting off after a stranger. He ran after Elijah and said to him, first let me go kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I'll go with you. And don't miss this. Elijah replied, go back, but think about what I've done to you. He says, count the cost. This is a big deal. This is not, Elisha, this is not, I'm asking you to add to everything. This is not, I'm telling you that this is going to happen. It's going to be kind of strange. I am calling you to a drastic change in the trajectory of your life. You will have to leave Wayne Manor. You are having to go to a new place and leave behind all of your privilege and all of your wealth and all of your influence and all of the trajectory of your life and take a risk. You have to leave it all behind, so do not take this lightly, Elisha. Go count the cost. Think about what I'm calling you to. And so he goes home, and we see this drastic response in the first part of 21. So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire and roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and they all ate. So here's what the dude does. Elijah says, count the cost. It's going to be a big deal. Everything in Elisha's life was saying, this is the direction. You're going to take over the farm. You're going to run the family. You're going to be rich. You're going to be powerful. People are going to work for you. You're going to change lives. And he says, you know what? No, I am literally going to burn all of that. He makes this moment, this drastic change, in this extreme act. And what we see for momentum to change, the first thing requires moments of extreme obedience. If you're taking notes, it requires moments of extreme obedience. This is a big deal for him to go back and for him to slaughter those oxen. He invites the townspeople. 2 oxen are going to feed a lot of people. It is a huge, huge moment. But for him, he's going this direction, and he can't make a small change. He has to make a 180 and change everything about what he's doing, and that's true for us. I think there are times when God calls us to move away from what we've been doing and to what he is calling us to, and it is not a 2-degree shift. It is a 180-degree turn. He burns his old life behind. And some of you, if I can just be totally honest, some of you, your story mirrors Elisha a little bit. You're playing the sport everybody thinks you should play. You're taking the classes everybody thinks you should take. You're dating the person everybody thinks you should date. You're hanging out with the friends everybody thinks you should hang out with. You're going to the school that your parents think you should go to. You're making the plans that everybody thinks you should make. And everything on the outside looks in and is like, of course that's the direction. That's what life has been building to. And they could be great things. It could be, you could be pursuing a medical career so that you could go be a medical missionary and save lives across the planet. But some of you know in your heart, I'm going that direction, but God is sending me this way. And it doesn't make sense. And I don't know what to do, but this just makes too much sense. There are others of you, if we're being honest, your life is moving in the wrong direction, and it's not because everything is good. It's because you're not making great choices. You're not living life the way you need to, and life is going this way. And I don't know if it's the messages that you can't stop sending, or the places you can't stop going, or the people you can't stop hanging out with, or the things you can't stop doing, or looking at, or seeing, or whatever, but your life is going this direction. You know it needs to go this way, but I can't, no matter what I do, I just can't seem to change it. And it doesn't seem to work because your momentum is going in that direction. It takes an outside force. Momentum doesn't stop on its own in a fast way. I tell you what, I need, Noah, come on up here. Everybody give Noah a round of applause. He wins the prize for sitting close. Have a seat on this cart. Yeah. This could hurt a lot. I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. Noah's on this cart. Scoot back a little bit. There you go. I would have you try and push me, but I'm kind of a big guy, and then no one wins. So let's say he's going this way. Let's imagine I'm in full sprint mode going this direction. If he is going this direction, that is fine. But if he needs to be going this direction, he has no power right now. Let's imagine full sprint mode. He has no power to turn it around. What is required for him to stop moving in this direction is an outside force with greater inertia to come in and connect with him and force him to go the other way. Not only that, it has to redirect him, but it has to re-inspire him and launch him in this direction. If he continues going this way, told you, watch out. If he continues going this way, he has no hope. He needs the outside force with greater intention, with greater purpose, with greater momentum. If he's coming this way at 20 miles an hour and I'm walking this way at 2 miles an hour, I lose that battle. He needs an outside force to intersect, to interact. And then he goes that way, and I think that's where some of us are. But also, I think some of us, we would say, this is closer to life. Like, also, you're talking about, like, it's bad. We're going this way. I need to be going this way. I'm not doing anything. The same thing. As much as Noah wants to go that way, he could just be like, and he's not going to go anywhere. He could will himself that direction all he wants. If your life is not moving in the right direction, or if it's moving in the wrong direction, it takes an outside force with a stronger impact to move you, to orient you in the right way, and to get you moving in the correct direction. Here's the problem. When God comes into our life, and we have these moments where we're faced with an option of extreme obedience, because it is a force that is stronger than the direction of our lives, oftentimes it is uncomfortable. Oftentimes it is painful. Oftentimes it's very jarring because everything's going that way. And in a moment, God's changing it. And so what I think I see happen time and time again is, students, we have these chances to see our life go in a different direction. And because the force that it would require from the Lord is so great, we avoid it. We know God's calling us this way. We know God's trying to push us this way. We know God's put it on our heart to make this decision, and we're not willing to burn the oxen and go. It requires an outside force, and that is often a painful thing. Y'all give it up for Noah. Noah, you can have a seat on the chair. You did such a great job sitting on that. So what happens? Elijah gets this call to be this incredible prophet. Elijah says, you're next. He put the mantle on him. He burned his parents' oxen and fed the town in a party. It's going to be incredible. I'm going to do crazy stuff. I'm going to call fire from heaven, and I'm going to give all these prophecies. God, I can't wait. It is going to be awesome. I'm the next prophet. It's awesome. I'm leaving all my wealth and all my influence and all the direction I'm supposed to be, but it's a moment of extreme obedience. And Lord, I trust you. And then he went with Elijah's assistant. Huh? I imagine him coming back from this bonfire and be like, Elijah, let's do this. This is going to be awesome. And he's like, yeah, carry my bag. Huh? No, remember when you put the mantle, the coat on me and I'm next? It's going to be awesome. Can you show me how to call the power of the Lord? Yeah, no, just my bedroll if you could carry that. Dude, I just burned 2 of my dad's ox. You want me to what? And in fact, when we look in the passage on the ditch diggers that we looked at the first week of this, when the guard was talking about to the kings who they should consult, they said, hey, we need to talk to Elisha. He's the one that used to wash the hands of Elijah. Students, he has this moment of extreme obedience, and then listen, don't miss this. For 18 years, he's Elijah's Germex guy, and that's it. He's the guy who washes his hands. Elijah goes and does some incredible miracle. Elisha, please wash my hands. He goes and he's meeting people or leading this class, this school of ministers. So he's going and he's interacting with all these people. Elisha, wash my hands. He eats some bad food and has to take care of some stuff in whatever their bathroom is and comes out as Elisha, where are you at? Gone forever, man. Stop. No, wash my hands. He's a Germex guy. He was in line to be in charge of an agricultural empire, and now he's carrying the bedroll and washing the poop hands of a prophet. How many times do you think that Elisha might have found himself saying, God, what? I left what to do this? He's doing all the right things. He's making all the right choices. He's following the right stuff, and nothing seems to be happening. But what we see in the story of Elisha is it's not just these moments of extreme obedience where we're obeying and taking big risks and making big choices. It's also moments of long obedience. It's extreme obedience and long obedience. Long obedience in the same direction is a phrase coined by Eugene Peterson, the guy that translated the Message. And it's this idea of digging ditches. It's this idea of doing the little things over and over and over. And for 18 years, that's all he does. For 18 years, that's all he does. And just to kind of give you an idea of what long obedience can do, I made some charts and all kinds of stuff, but then they were ugly and nerdy and all that stuff, so I thought I'd just tell you about it instead of trying to read a chart as a finance class. But how many of y'all are familiar with the idea of compound interest? all right? Some of y'all, you may have even heard an example like this. He basically, we'll take it a couple steps back to more junior high math. If you have $100 and you invest it in an account that gets 10% compounding interest, at the end of that year, you have made 10% of $100, which is how much dollars? $10, right. So you take your $100 and your $10 and now you have $110. And over that year, if you don't do anything to it and it gets 10% again, what's 10% of $110? $11. And so then you add that and you have $121 the next year, and it's getting a little bit bigger. And then you got $12.10 that adds to it. On and on. Here's long obedience. Here's doing the right things over and over and over. Let's say at 15 years old, you made the decision that said, I'm gonna make investing a priority. And this is not really realistic because 15-year-olds don't make this kind of money oftentimes, unless you're really good at selling drugs or something. Like, I don't know, but like, don't do that. I just feel like I need to be very clear. Don't do that. Because the senior high one is the one we put on YouTube, and that's going to be bad. You invest $200 a month. $200 a month from 15 every month. In months where you only make $201, you still invest those $200. And you get 10%. And you keep doing that. And when you're rich and you're a lawyer, scientist, millionaire, celebrity, football coach that got fired and still gets paid, like whatever you got to do, and you're making $1 bajillion a month. Similar to me. I'm just kidding, I don't. And you're still like, nope, only $200. From 15 to 65, you would have invested $120,000 over that span of time, which is a lot of money and more money than I have. But when you retire, because of compounding interest, you will have $3,100,000 for investing $120,000, which is really good math. Now, keep in mind, if, let's say by the time you're 25 years old, you're telling your friend about it, you're like, yeah, it's kind of a pain, but I just do this because here's how math works and it's great. The 25-year-old says, oh, dude, that's awesome, but I'm a little behind. I'm going to invest $500. $400. I'm going to invest $400. I'm just going to double it to try and catch up. I missed 10 years, but I'm going to keep doing that. And he does the same thing. You're doing $200, and he's now doing $500 or $400 starting at the age of 25. He will have invested, because of how math works, $240,000, twice what you've invested. He will only have about $2,800,000. So he is investing more and getting less. Why? Because long obedience, small acts of discipline that start when you're younger, build and build and build. So that's why today we're trying to get you thinking about who you're going to be in 5 years, because if you can make small changes today, you're going to be in a much better spot than if you make small changes 5 years from now. That's why we're trying to show you the idea of long obedience in the same direction. But I would imagine Elisha had moments where he was freaking out, where he was saying, God, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going in the right direction, and I'm washing his hands, and you've called me to more. And I think that there are probably some of us in here who feel that. Some of us in here who you really are. You're doing the right things. You're making the right choices. You're following the right stuff. You're pursuing the Lord, and you look around, you're like, God, where is the proof? I just don't feel it. I don't see the fruit. I don't know, Lord, please, what is happening? And here's what I want to tell you. If that is you and you're in the season of long obedience, God has not forgotten you. God is preparing you. He has not forgotten you. He has not left you. He has not hoped that you'll get your own momentum on your own. He is preparing you for a season that will be richer and greater than you could have had you not patiently waited. And that's what we see with Elisha. He's an assistant for 18 years, and it's not that God has forgotten him. God is preparing him. So 18 years later, we find in 2 Kings how this story just starts to pick up a little bit, how it ends. 18 years later, it's Elijah's last day on earth, and I think he knows it. And in the story, they're going city to city and talking to their students. So these different cohorts or pods of people that are learning under Elijah, and he goes and visits and teaches, and then they're kind of like in prophet training or whatever, school of ministry, whatever you want to call it. And Elisha's following him, still the assistant, still learning and growing and washing hands. They get to the last one by the Jordan River, and there's about 50 students, and Elijah just checks in on them, just a typical day. This idea of long obedience, like Elijah's about to be gone, he's still just checking on students. They get to the Jordan River, and Elijah takes off his cloak, right? The same thing that he wrapped around Elisha's shoulders 18 years before. And he takes it, and the Bible says he he hits the Jordan River with his cloak and it splits. And like we read that and we're like, oh, the Bible, okay. But like if we were at the like down at the river market and I took my jacket or my sweatshirt, it was like, and it would whoosh, you would all poop your pants. It's a big deal. So Elijah, and they just walk across. Water comes back in, and they're walking and talking like nothing ever happened, right? And then in this really, I think this really intimate moment in verse, where are we at? Verse 9, yeah. When they came to the other side, Elijah said to Elisha, tell me what I can do for you before I'm taken away. What do you want? I'm about to leave. This guy who has mentored and discipled and poured into his life longer than most of the people in this room have been alive. He has followed every footstep, every miracle, every prophecy, every training, every lesson. And in this moment, he says, I am about to leave. What do you want? I just think the overwhelming emotions that are all over Elisha's mind. And here's his response. Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit and become your successor. And we hear that on the one hand, yes, like a double portion. Give me twice what God has given you. I want to do twice what I've seen you do, and I want to be your successor. But here's the thing. In their society, the double portion and successor is the inheritance of the oldest son. It is the same thing with Shaphat. He would have gotten the double inheritance. He would have gotten twice the amount of money that his siblings did. If your parents left you $5 and there's 3 of you, then the oldest, or 4 of you, the oldest gets $2 and everybody else gets 1. That's how it works. You're the oldest, you get twice the amount of money, but you also get the responsibility and the mantle of your father. You're the patriarch. And so Elisha says to Elijah, I want my double portion. I want my inheritance. I want to do the thing that you called me to do 20 years ago. I'm ready. Give me the Spirit. Give me God's anointing. Give me the power to do what I believe he has called me to do. And then Elijah, in what I can only imagine is a bit of a jerk move, stays cryptic. He says, you've asked for a really difficult thing. If you see me when I'm taken from you, you'll get your request. If not, you won't. I think he knows what's about to happen. He said, yeah, if you watch it. Well, here's how Elijah goes. If you don't know, starting in verse 11, as they were walking along and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by horses of fire. It drove between the two of them, separating them, and Elijah was carried out by a whirlwind into heaven. I do not think Elisha stood a chance of missing that. He's like, give me a double portion. Only if you see me leave. Whoosh, whoosh. Fire in between them, all this stuff. He sees it. I think he's messing with him a little bit. He sees it. And then in this poetic moment, the cloak falls. And Elisha picks up Elijah's cloak, the same cloak that nearly 20 years ago started all of this stuff. And he puts it on, and he walks back to the Jordan. And as the band comes up and we close our time out, he gets to the Jordan. And just imagine the tension of this moment. For 20 years, you have left your family behind, you have left your calling behind, you have left your inheritance behind, all to follow this guy, Elijah. And in this moment, time comes. Is it gonna work? You gotta get back to the other side of the Jordan River. Is it gonna happen? And you take your cloak, and just imagine how embarrassing it would be to be like, nothing, okay, yeah, no, I didn't think it would anyway, it's fine, this is a good jacket. But he takes the cloak, and he hits the Jordan River, and it splits. He walks across, and the students see, and they start talking, and he carries on the mantle of Elijah, the double portion of God's Spirit. And Elisha goes on to be this incredible world-shaping prophet. But it took 20 years that were spurred on by a moment of extreme obedience and carried on the momentum by these moments of long obedience when it was really tough and seemed menial. This is not the story of this moment of change that was on his own. This is the story of God shaping history. And here's the deal, Eyes Up Here students, how many of us would not want a double portion of God? I think we want to see God move in our schools. I think we want to feel God move in our heart. I think we want to see him move in our families, and on our teams, and in our city. I think we want to see, all of us want to see God do incredible things. Even if you don't believe in God, you still would want to see him do miracles and prove his existence. But here's what I find to be true. We all want these huge moves, but we don't want the obedience required. We all want these huge moments, but we don't want the sacrifice he requests. We all want to feel his spirit and do this stuff, but we don't want the discipline and the patience that it takes to follow the Lord, not in just a moment, but for a lifetime. But not in just the little things, but in these moments of sacrifice. It takes both to follow the Lord and continue on in this trajectory. It takes this extreme obedience to change the momentum of your life when an outside force comes in and changes who you are. But we can't get the benefit without the faith. So I don't know where you are tonight. Maybe for some of you, you really are. You're already moving in this direction, and you're doing the right things, and you're following him, and you love the Lord, and you're making all the right choices, all this stuff, and you're just a little frustrated because it doesn't seem to pay off. And all I want to remind you is, He's not forgotten you. He's preparing you. He's not left you in your school by yourself with no one to support you. He's not left you in your family to be the butt of every joke. He has not left you on your team to be the only person who's trying to do the right thing. He has not forgotten you. He is preparing you. I think others in this room, maybe you're moving in this direction for good reasons or bad reasons. And you really do. You know that you're supposed to be going this way, either because the Lord has told you or because this direction is like inherently wrong and causing harm and brokenness, and you just don't know what to do. And so maybe tonight you have that Elisha moment where you, in this next song, where we're singing about building our life on him and him being the one that puts it together. Maybe tonight you just sit in your seat and you say, okay, Lord, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I know this isn't it. And tonight I'm burning it to the ground. I am done. I am following in obedience and asking you to come in and wreck my life and change something about me. That way you have this night to look back on in 2 days or 20 days or 2 years. When you want to go back that direction, you can look back to this night and say, nope, that was the night. In the same way Elisha had his bonfire with his friends, he could look back and say, I know that God called me. I know that God spoke. So maybe tonight is the night. I'm not saying like start a fire in here, but like where you just handle some business with God and you say, I'm done. Lord, change the direction of my life because I can't do it anymore. Break me, wreck me, change me, whatever it takes. I am here to obey. Maybe some of you in here, maybe you've never made a decision to follow Jesus, because here's the thing. That outside force that's really uncomfortable, really hurts us, really puts a lot of pressure. It's not our willpower. It's not us saying like, I'm going to do better. It is the Holy Spirit. It is God's presence coming in and changing us from the inside out. None of this matters if you don't have God. None of this works if you don't have God. And so maybe tonight is the night that changes for you. Would y'all pray with me?